Hey everyone, welcome to Mr. Reality, and this is r/EntitledParents, where you can read all about moms and dads who think they're more entitled than their own kids. And today's stories are full of surprises by immature parents, and I cannot wait to share them with you here today. Story number 1, entitled parents who think that because there is a pool, they should be allowed to use it. This is a story from last year, but I'm still bristling about it, so I thought it was worth a retell. I tacked a few days holiday onto a work trip to Charleston and had gotten an Airbnb out on the coast with my husband and 2 old friends who lived in New York. They flew out to stay with us for the weekend. It was a real old friend catch-up. Very boozy, but very chilled out. We'd been out for lunch on the second day, and heading back to the house, we all grabbed a drink and went out onto the back garden deck to be greeted by the sight of a woman by the pool with 2 kids splashing around. As soon as she saw us, she ran over shouting and screaming at us, and for a second, we thought we were in the wrong house. Anyway, the entitled woman, I'll call her Karen, started screaming at us saying she'd been waiting for us for 30 minutes and in the end had to break the back gate to get in so the kids could use the pool, how her kids had got really hot, and that we needed to get them some drinks and snacks now. My friend found her voice first and asked what the f was going on and what this woman was doing in our pool. Karen explained and ranted that she was best friends with the owners, but of course didn't know their names, and that they let her use the pool when there weren't guests at the house. We pointed out that there were in fact guests, and Karen retaliated saying that no one was here when she arrived and that she knew the owner would want her kids to be happy and we need to sort out those drinks and snacks for her kids. Meanwhile, I'm calling the owner who isn't picking up, and the argument is getting heated with my husband telling the now very angry woman to get the f out of the backyard. She got the kids out of the pool while shouting that we weren't using the pool anyway, how unhappy we were making the kids, and how we need to put the kids first. I think the language coming out of your face is upsetting them more, actually, Karen. Her parting shot as she leaves is to take the piss out of my accent, which is British, and then to finish us all off, she tells us that we must be pedophiles to come away as a child-free group of 4 and that she was going to call the police on us. We were still so confused hours later. When the owner eventually called me back, it turns out the woman is a relative of the woman who ran the cleaning company they use and have never once been invited to use the pool. Total fucking craziness. But it did give us a good holiday story, I suppose. That is one hell of a story. I actually can't believe it. That woman broke and entered into a property, which is a crime. She lied to the police if she was actually going to call the police on this group of 4 who was vacationing at this Airbnb. And she also vandalized the property by breaking the gate to get into the property in the first place. So she broke 3 laws right there. And honestly, she deserves to go to jail. What an absolutely crazy story. These entitled mothers had no idea I spoke Spanish. For this story to make sense, you have to know that I'm multilingual. I'm a white person as well, so at first glance, people don't think I can speak Spanish or Japanese or anything along those lines. I also want to clarify, these stories happened 1 to 2 years ago. I think people were under the impression that my stories were happening currently. Context: I was a daycare worker for a year or so when I was younger. We were having a Halloween party of sorts, which meant that parents were invited, similar to primary and elementary school. A Hispanic woman entered the class, and her 1-year-old or so entered the class a little early. I smiled at her and told her where to sit and wait while we finished up story time and we would start the party. Of course, the woman's daughter ran up to her and instantly began speaking Spanish to her, which I understood every word. The little girl was basically just going on about Halloween and how much she loves Halloween books. Another detail about this woman is that she looks very young, like way too young to have a 3-year-old or even a 1-year-old. She looked like a teenager, but you know, whatever. Maybe she has a bomb-ass skincare routine. Good for her. We finished story time, 2 more parents entered the room in this time, and one of these parents is another Hispanic woman who immediately greets the other woman and they start to have a conversation in Spanish. Again, I can understand every word they're saying, but they don't know that. We let the kids play as we set out the party stuff on the back counters like party hats, treats, and we also start to set up games around the room. I finally take a seat after doing a million things at once, and I began to look down at my phone. Edit. I didn't think I would need to clarify this, but I do need to add this. I looked at my phone for maybe 20 seconds to see if an email came from my doctor or not. At this time, I was getting results back to see if I had cervix cancer. I didn't, by the way. I know I didn't need to add this, and that it is not relevant. I'm just sick of seeing comments saying that I shouldn't have been on my phone. Normally, I wouldn't be, and I agree that it's unprofessional, but the situation encouraged me. My apologies. But back to the story. A flood of parents coming in now. The other carer in the room was giving them instructions, so other than watching the kids, I didn't have much to do. If it was just myself and my coworker in the room, I would have been 100% focused on the kids. But there were about 7 or 8 adults in the room, so I wasn't worried. I overhear a conversation that's in Spanish. Entitled Mother 1, how lazy, and we trust her to take care of our children. Entitled Mother 2 says, I know, right? Sitting on her fat butt looking at her cell phone. What a bad influence. So I look up at them, pretending I'm just looking around and don't understand a word they're saying. I then place my phone in my pocket and begin to help their daughters with a puzzle, and begin speaking to the 2 girls in Spanish. I look up to see both of the mothers looking at each other mortified. They knew I heard them. I was only 3 feet away. I didn't laugh about it until after they left, but when they did, I laughed my ass off. And I tell this story all the time because it's one of my personal favorites. I hope you enjoyed. Don't assume they can't understand you. I mean, they probably don't, but still, laughing my ass off. That's a really funny story, and it's actually kind of crazy because if you think about it, you've totally been in a couple of positions before in your life where you think people don't necessarily understand what you're saying, or maybe other people think that you don't understand what they're saying, and either one of you can understand each other, and one of you also has no idea. And it really makes me think back to my own life and how many times that's happened. Maybe I should apologize to a few of those people. Mom sneaks onto summer camp at night to kidnap her whiny kid. I used to work at a summer camp in Northern Ontario from the time I was 16 to the time I was 25, so I have many stories about parents like this. So this happened in my first year, and I was pretty new to counseling. I had a kid who was always homesick and would cry 4 to 5 times a day, and I talked to his dad about it, and he said that the kid's mom babied him and dad was trying to toughen him up a bit. He told me that unless something was serious, to just ignore it. So for the first 4 days, I tried to help the kid, but he obviously didn't want to participate and would cry whenever someone tried to talk with him. I let him sit out, and then he would appreciate it a little. When we were approaching the first weekend, I realized that my cell was missing. I thought maybe I'd misplaced it and went to bed. I woke up to banging on the door. The kids were freaking out. I walked over and opened it to see a 40-year-old Karen with my wild eyes. Entitled Mother, where is he? I said, who? The entitled mother said, where is my son? So I said back, Miss, we have a very strict policy. You can't be here, right? At that point, she tried to push past me. I grabbed onto either side of the door. The whiny kid said, Mommy, he's the one who's bullying me. I turned my head just enough to see the little bastard with my phone. Entitled Mother said, let me through, you piece of shit. At this point, she's pushing with the force of 1,000 entitled moms. I let go of the door and shoved her with 2 hands. She toppled over and slammed into a cabin door, locking it. I grabbed my phone from the little brat and called my camp director. She told me that she would call the father and the police. We made it very clear to parents that it's trespassing to come to the camp at night. The whiny kid is crying and screaming for his mom. The entitled mom is slamming against the door, using her "can I speak to the manager" strength. She's screaming about me being a pedophile and how I'm raping her child. I hear her going to the other cabins, trying to get in, but thankfully, all the staff had been informed to lock the doors. Finally, I hear cars pull up, but then I hear more slamming. She broke through the door with a baseball bat. I felt like I was in The Shining. All of the kids are screaming while the little brat is smiling and yelling for his mom. I pushed all of the kids into the bathroom and told them to lock the door behind them. I grabbed a broom, waiting to do a battle with this evil being, but just as she was getting the door open, 2 police officers tackled her to the ground outside. Her face was purple, and she looked a lot like Grimace. Entitled Mother said, my baby! No! Let me see him! The cops dragged her away. I was later informed that the father and mother had been divorced. They had shared custody, but the mother was mentally unbalanced. She was later admitted to the mental hospital. The kid isn't much of a brat anymore, as dad has full custody. Again, what a story. Especially at a camp with kids, this mom's gonna take a baseball bat to try and open doors. It's just another case of another entitled parent that should be arrested. So that brings us to an end of today's videos, and the stories we read today were honestly really insane. We learned about two entitled moms who thought one of the daycare employees couldn't understand a word they were saying when in fact she could understand every word and she was able to laugh about it later. We also talked about how entitled parents basically broke into a back garden pool and started to use it with their kids, which is totally against the law, and they also vandalized the property. And then also we learned about an entitled mom essentially trespassing at a summer camp at night to kidnap her own whiny kid from the actual camp. These are all absolutely crazy stories. Drop a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Make sure to comment which story you guys think is craziest down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next r/video.